Welcome to Papa's Workshop. This is the first video in a series that I'm going to be doing on showing you how to use the VCarve Desktop in conjunction with the Universal G-Code Sender. Now in this video, I'm doing a very simple sign to begin with. I'm showing you how to cut the profile, how to do arched letters, and create the pocket. Now I want to be able to take each of the videos that I do and add upon it so that you'll be able to grow along with me as I go through the different features of the VCarve Desktop. So let's get started today. To start this project, I'm going to come over to the left side and I'm going to open up a brand new file. By clicking that, it brings up the first menu is the job setup. Now under the job setup, you want to be able to go through each of these items. First, it's going to be a single-sided, and as far as the size of my sign, I'm going to make this 12 inches and I'm going to make it 7 inches on the y-axis, and the depth is a 1/2 inch. That is good because the material that I'm using today is going to be MDF. We're going to stay in inches, and for the surface, material surface is going to be my 0 point, and we're going to use the bottom left-hand corner for my XY axis. As far as this, I really don't need this section at this point, so I can click OK. So here's my work piece now, and I can scroll out just a little bit so you can see this. And what I want to be able to do is start out with a rectangle. And now my rectangle, I'm going to have that be placed into the center of this work area. And what I want to be able to do, I want to be able to have the curve, and I want to be able to have it on the internal. I could click this, have it rounded. I could also click and just have a normal square corner. But I think what I want to do is be able to go ahead and have this on an internal radius, and a 1/2 inch on this size sign I think will work well. So I'll leave it at that. As far as the size of the sign, now I know this is 12 inches. I think I'm going to make this 11 and leave that as it is set. Height, my board is going to be 7 inches. So I think I'm going to make this 6 inches. And at this point, I can go ahead and create that line. Now then, to be able to center it, and I'll close this out. I don't need this open anymore. Now, I'm going to go ahead and highlight that and bring it up to the center of the workpiece. And the easiest way to do that is just click right here, click on the center, and now that is centered in the work area. So the next step that I want to do is I want to be able to have another line that is set inward of this. And to be able to do that, I'm going to go over and click on the offsetter tool. And that's right down here. And that is offset. I'll click that, open up that window. And I do want this to move inward, and let's move in about a 1/2 inch. I'll go ahead and create the offset. Everything else will remain the same. And now you can see here's my original line and here's the offset. So I'll just click anywhere and that will unhighlight that. Now I have the border for my sign. Now for this particular sign, I want to be able to add some letters in here, and this is going to end up being a pocket. But for right now, let's go ahead and close this window, and let's add some text. So I'll click on the text, and this window will open up. And I think I'm going to just type in wash, because I'm going to do wash my hands. I have that. Now then, as far as the font, you can use this drop-down window and you can select any of the different fonts that you wish. But I like the Arial. I'm going to go ahead and leave that. but I do want it bold. As far as the height, I am going to change this height, and I'm going to reduce the height to about 1.25 inches. And then I'm going to go ahead and close that. So here is my text right here. I'm going to highlight that, and I'm going to go ahead and shove it up into this area. Now you can see as I move along, that actually centers it right there. Well, one of the things that I'd like to do is create an arc, and I'd also like to be able to space out these letters. I think they're too close together. And the easiest way to do that is come over here to this one. Now this icon says Edit Texting and Spacing and Curve. So I'm going to click on that. And now what you see is two little green dots, one above and one below. So what you can do on that is grab that one and bring it up. And that looks pretty good. The other thing that you can do is go between the letters, and if you click on that, see how it brings it closer together. But you can hold the Shift key, and when you hold the Shift key, then you can open it up. So I'm going to go right into there, and now I can click on it and open it up. I'm going to go over to the other one. I'm going to go right here, hold the Shift key down, and open that up. Now I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to go a little bit wider. I think that looks a whole lot better. Alright, so that takes care of that. And then the next, I'm going to put hands down here. So we're going to go back to the text, open up this window, and type in hands. We're going to use the same font, and we'll use the same height. So I'll just go ahead and close. I do want the bold, can't forget that. And I'll just close that. Now we'll do the same thing. I'm going to grab this, highlight it, I'll grab this anchor point, and we'll move it right down to the center. There we go. So there is the sign. Now I think what I want to do is make hands just a little bit bigger. So I'm going to highlight that, and then I'm going to stretch it this way. And then I'm going to realign this. There we go. And I think I'm going to take this one now. I'm going to bring that down just a little. I like that better. So there we go. So you can maneuver this and play with this and get it set exactly the way you want it, just by being able to grab the little handles. Now if you wanted to rotate that, you could click this and rotate it, but no, that's not what I'm wanting to do. So I can come up here under the edit and just click the undo, and that brings it right back to where it was. And I like that. With our sign completed now, let's go over and create some toolpaths. So I'm going to come right up here and click on this button. That brings me over into this, and the first thing that I want to do is create the pocket where this will cut down and leaving the letters on the surface at the original height. So to do that, I want to click on the vector, and I'm going to hold down the Shift key and highlight that word, Shift key still. Now I have everything highlighted. I'm going to come over to right here for the pocket, and then we're going to look at this. My start depth is going to be at the surface, so it's going to be 0. I'm only going to carve down 0.1 of an inch, which I think will be plenty. The tool that I'm going to use is an 1/8 inch end mill, so that will work fine. And I'm going to leave everything else alone. and we're going to come down here, labeling this as pocket number 1 is fine. Now down at the bottom, if I wanted to change the name, I can, but I'm just going to leave this as pocket 1, and I'm going to calculate. Now it shows the actual toolpath that it's going to be running. Now we have the toolpath shown, but what's it going to look like when it's cut out? So let's go over. The first thing I want to do, right here, let's select a toolpath color, and let's just say it's blue since we're washing our hands. And then I want to preview this selection. Now we get to see what it actually looks like. And we can rotate this around, and you can see how it cuts down and creates the depth. The next thing we need to do is create the toolpath to be able to cut this sign out. So I'm going to go back over here for a moment, and let's look at our 2D version. We'll click on anywhere, eliminate this, and now we're going to highlight this toolpath right here, because that's what we're going to be cutting out. Let's go back over here so we can see that. And by the way, I need to close this. So this is the operation that I need to be able to select right now, is the toolpath to be able to do this cutout. And again, we're going to start at the surface. We're going to be cutting all the way through the material. And I think what I'm going to do, just to make sure that we go all the way through, I'm going to cut this at a depth of 0.55. And we get this little error message that the tool will cut through the material, and that is fine. We're going to use the same bit this time, my 1/8 inch bit, to do the cutting. And the passes is 5. For this one, I'm just going to go ahead and leave it. If I wanted to edit the pass, I could, but we're just going to leave it at the 5 passes. We'll click OK to get out of that window. And then we'll go down here, and we're going to cut on the outside. I want to be able to cut on the outside of my toolpath line, and everything else is going to look good. We're going to scroll down to the end. This is a profile cut. I don't need to change the name. We'll just go ahead and have that saying yes, it's going to cut all the way through, and that's what I want. So let's preview this. So there's my sign. Now I'm not using tabs. I could select tabs and use them, but for this sign I am not using tabs, and the reason being is I'm going to be using my glue and tape method to be able to hold this down. The other thing that I can do, if you want to see what it looks like without this waste material, look right here. Double click on the waste area and I can remove that. So there it is, it's gone. So that's actually a good representation of what this sign would look like. If you wanted to be able to email this to a customer, you could do that, and they would get a real good idea of what this sign is going to look like. So now I'm going to go ahead and just click on this one to bring it back to this stage, and that will complete the sign itself. Now again, this is a real simple sign to start with. So at this point, I'm going to close this window. The next thing we need to do is be able to save the toolpath, and we're going to do this right here. I'm going to be able to select all the toolpaths, and I want to be able to output all visible toolpaths to one file, and I can do that because I'm using the exact same bit. So from there, as far as the post processor, I'm going to be using the VCarve, and it's going to be in inches to be able to create my G code. So I'm going to save my toolpath at this point, and that's going to bring it right over here. Now the material that I'm using is just a 1/2 inch piece of the MDF, and this is the 7 inches by the 12 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and start the machine, move it out of the way, and using my tape and glue method, I'm going to secure that onto my auxiliary waste board. When you open a universal G-code sender, all of this information should be correct and in here. And if it is, you just want to go ahead and click open. And then I get the alarm code, and the reason being is of the homing switches. So I'm just going to come right over here to machine controls, and I'm going to click on this $ and X, and that's going to release that. Now over on the right hand side, I want to jog the machine and move this. Now at this point it's in inches. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change this to 1 inch. So I have that now at 1 inch. So let's jog the machine. And over here you can see the machine is moving to the right to 1 inch. Now I'm going to go ahead and get the machine out of the way. So I'm going to go ahead and type in right here 6 inches. And we're going to jog the machine on the y-axis to 6 inches. There we go. That now is out of the way, and I actually hit the button twice, but that gets it completely out of the way so that I can mount the workpiece. Now I'm going to go ahead and mount the workpiece right here on my auxiliary waste board, because I am cutting all the way through and it will cut just slightly into this material. And that way it protects my original waste board. And to be able to do that, I'm just going to put a piece of tape right here. And the same thing on the bottom side. Okay. And we'll do the same thing right here. Now, next we'll just put a little bead of glue. Now I'm using the Star Bond thick glue. It doesn't take a whole lot of glue to be able to hold this. A little bead there. And then we'll put the cap back on it. Now I do have a link in the description for a 15% discount, so you can certainly take advantage of that. A little bit of the accelerator, and I'll go ahead and position that right down onto my auxiliary waste board. Hold this down for a moment, and we're good. We are now ready to be able to carve. Now the next thing that I'm going to do is go ahead and open up the file, and I'm going to go over to the browse section, click on that, and what I typically will do is move the file over to the desktop. It's just a lot easier to find it. And right here I have the window. It pops up and it says Wash Hands G-code. So that is the file that I'm going to open. So that is right here. And now I want to visualize that. And let's take a look at what that looks like. Now let's take a look at the file and do the visualize it. This will take just a moment to be able to load. And it shows it'll start and cut right here. Next thing that we're going to go ahead and do is set the XY axis, XY and Z axis, and get that done with my 3-axis touch plate. Now I have the probe plugged into my little control box. I have my touch plate in place and it's all connected. So what I'm going to do is come over to the macros, and I'm going to select the macro, and then I'm going to use this one right here, the C3, and I'm going to click on that and it will start the sequence. Now I've moved the bit over to exactly to my XY0 position that I had established. So now I'm ready to be able to carve. Now the first thing you may say is, wow, I'm cutting the cutout first. And in this situation, it's okay. And the reason being is that I'm using the glue and tape method, so I know that nothing is going to move. I can actually cut this out, and if I wanted to, I could remove the waste material and keep going. But I wanted to show you that yes, you can go ahead and cut this, and then I'm going to go ahead and bring in the pocket cutout second. The nice thing about this, it literally takes about 3.5 minutes to be able to cut this out. Much, much faster than what I'm used to, and I'm really absolutely loving the fact that it can go so much quicker using the VCarve Desktop and this new carve from CNC for Newbies. This new carve machine is rock solid. It is very, very stable. There's no chatter, and it is just doing an awesome job of cutting this. Now it's time to bring up the second one, and this is the hand wash pocket G-code. Now I want to point out to you that normally I would have done this one first, but because I'm using the glue and tape method, I can reverse it and do the cutout first and then the pocket, and that's what I did in this case. So I'm selecting the hand wash pocket and I'm opening it, and now it shows right up here. Now then, I'm going to double check and set my XYZ axis. You can see that my X and my Y are already at 0, and the Z axis is 20.32 millimeters high. So I'm going to go ahead and type in 20.32 millimeters. I'm going to double check the millimeters, and then I'm going to click on the down, and that brings it exactly where it needs to be. So now I'm actually ready to carve. So I'm going to turn the spindle on and hit carve. Using the VCarve Desktop to be able to carve this, you'll recognize immediately that the toolpath that's being generated is far more efficient. It has very little wasted movement, and this machine spends most of the time actually carving, and that really saves a lot of time. This entire pocket to be able to do this job took a little over 14 minutes to be able to carve. The other thing that I want you to be able to pay attention to is that it's carving very, very clean. The bottom of this pocket absolutely needs no sanding at all. That is a pleasant surprise also, and I love that. All I need to be able to do is take this off of the CNC machine, dust it off, and I'm ready to use whatever finish that I want to use. There you go. The total carve time was 14 minutes, 13 seconds. Not bad at all. Now what I'm going to do is just select Machine Controls and move the router out of the way. And again, I'm going to switch this to inches. I'm going to select the 6 inches and move it out of the way so that I can remove the project from the wasteboard. To remove this project from the wasteboard, it's actually real easy. I just use a little putty knife to be able to get underneath the edge, and then it just lifts right off. There's a little bit of dust left on this, so I'm going to get both of it off with just tapping on it. Then a brush will clean up the rest of it. I think this looks absolutely fantastic. Let me get a close-up for you. You tell me. How do you like that? Leave a comment down below. Tell me what you think. and also what project you'd like to see next. Hi everyone, thank you for watching my video today. If you like the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below and the little bell next to it so you'll be notified on the different videos that I upload. Also check out the videos over here to be able to stay up to date on the happenings in my shop. So again, thank you for watching my videos.